So good evening or morning, whoever time zone it is. My name is Kashvi Shah, and today I'm presenting my summer research project. So my work focuses on how we can use natural language processing or NLP to detect early mental health indicators in the social media posts of adolescents. And my idea was to combine cutting-edge AI resources with public health needs to better support youth mental health. And I kind of thought of this topic because my school has been focusing a lot on mental health recently, and I was thinking, what can I do? And I realized that this was a passion of mine, so I decided to try to work with that problem. My mentor was Dr. Seta Whitby. So first off, why does this even matter? Well, adolescent depression is a really big global challenge. In fact, according to the World Health Organization, 1 in 7 adolescents experience a mental health disorder, and depression is the single leading cause of illness and disability in that age group. Suicide is tragically the third leading cause of death for young people between 15 and 29. And what makes it worse is that many of these cases go undiagnosed or untreated until they become too severe to help these people further. And most of these are completely preventable, and you can actually help these people so much if you catch it on early on, which just makes the situation even more tragic because these deaths are preventable. And this gap creates a pressing need for early detection methods, and this is where my project comes in. So my research question was simple but hopefully important. It was how effectively can NLP models detect early signs of depression or anxiety in teen social media posts? Social media, at least in my perspective, is especially important because teenagers often use it to share their feelings, sometimes even more openly than in real life. If we can detect these signals based off keywords they use in real time, it opens up the possibility of early intervention before crises escalate. So to understand my approach, I'm going to explain some background and prior work. Natural language processing, or NLP, enables computers to analyze and interpret human language. BERT, introduced in 2019, is one of the most powerful models in this field. Prior research has shown BERT to be very effective at identifying depression signals in text. However, studies also show that incorporating additional emotional or sentimental features, for example, how strongly a post expresses sadness or anger based off keywords commonly used, can further improve performance in this detection. And my research builds directly on some of these insights. So now I'm going to be talking about how my data was collected. For my dataset, I collected around 5,000 Reddit posts. Half came from r/depression, which serves as a proxy for depressed users, and half from r/teenagers, which serves as a more general baseline and is acting like my control. This gave me a balanced dataset to train and test models on. Of course, subreddit labels aren't perfect. Not every teenager in r/teenagers is mentally healthy, and not everybody posting in r/depression has a clinical diagnosis. But this setup has actually been widely used in prior work as a reasonable approximation, and based off the resources I have, I thought that this would be the easiest and most efficient way to gain a sort of large set of data, as I was looking and I couldn't really find any other big set of data to use. And all of my posts were anonymized and cleaned for analysis. So now I'm going to be going over the methods I used. First, I pre-processed the text, removing links, punctuation, and common stop words, then tokenized it for BERT. For each pre-processed post, I used the pre-trained BERT_base uncased model to generate contextual embeddings. I applied the BERT tokenizer to split text into tokens and added the special CLS and SEP markers and fed them through the transformer encoder. Then I took the final hidden state corresponding to the CLS token as a fixed size embedding vector representing the whole post. And this procedure basically leverages BERT's powerful language understanding to encode linguistic features for classification. So in addition to BERT, I computed explicit emotion and sentiment features for each post. So I compared two models in my study, the BERT baseline, which is only context, and then the BERT plus emotion, which kind of adds in the sentimental values that I talked about before. So I used a lexicon-based approach such as the NRC Emotion Lexicon or a pre-trained sentiment tool like TextBlob Transformer-based emotional classifier. These are some things I used to produce scores for basic emotions, such as anger, joy, sadness, or fear, and overall polarity. So I just kind of tested out a bunch of keywords to see what score they produced, and I used this to train my data. I'll explain that later on. But going back to my sentimental features, each post yielded a numeric vector of emotion features, like a frequency of sad words. And these features captured effective content that may not be fully captured by BERT's embeddings. And this was inspired by previous work that augments deep models with external sentiment cues. I concatenated the emotion vector with the BERT output to form an enriched representation. Then I trained two classification models on the dataset for the baseline BERT. So now I'll explain the baseline BERT in more detail. So using only the BERT-derived embedding from CLS for each post, I trained a simple classifier, which is a feed-forward neural layer to predict the depression versus not label. Now going on to the BERT plus emotion. This model was a little more complicated because I included sentimental values. So using the concatenated vector of CLS embedding A plus emotion features, I trained an analogous classifier. The architecture of both these models and training them was identical except for the additional input dimensions needed in the sentimental one. So both models use an 80-20 train/test split with 4,000 posts for training and then 1,000 for testing. I fine-tuned the BERT parameters with the CLS head for up to 5 epochs using the Atom W optimizer with a learning rate about 2E5. I applied dropout to avoid overfitting. I used five-fold cross-validation to ensure robustness, averaging metrics of across folds. And all of these model implementations were done in Python using the PyTorch and Hugging Face libraries. And I used Visual Studio Code to do all this part. So no prior work has actually trained BERT in this exact way for Reddit depression detection. They use similar methods, but I really wanted to do something unique to show more results that haven't already been discovered. So my methodology largely derives from actually standard fine-tuning procedures. The key novelty is the comparison of models with versus without the emotion feature augmentation. Usually previous research just focused on one or the other, but I wanted to try comparing with and without emotion to see which actually works more, if using sentimental values actually doesn't even do anything, does have a real impact, and is it worth focusing on. And as in similar studies of sentiment enhanced birth models, my hypothesis is that the extra emotional signal will improve classification accuracy, as I believe that using sentimental values will make the AI detector even more stronger and more accurate. It's kind of common sense in my perspective that if an AI model is able to detect specific words, it just makes it more accurate. And if it's able to detect when these words are used like sarcastically versus not, that makes it even more accurate. Like as a joke, if somebody posts like "I'm so sad" and it's more like a sarcastic thing that school's starting or something, the AI model without sentiment, might take that as they're becoming depressed because they're sad. But in reality, sarcasm, which is sentimental value trained model, will actually be able to detect that, oh, this is fine, it's not indicating depression. I'm sorry, that was kind of a tangent example. Yeah. So now these are my results. Oh, sorry. My BERT plus emotion results, I accidentally copied BERT only. Sorry about that mix-up. I just realized that. But I'll explain them to you. I'll just say them out loud. So the baseline BERT model achieved about 80% accuracy, which is strong, but still kind of left room for improvement. But however, when I added emotion and sentiment features, accuracy improved to 88%, and the F1 score for detecting depressed posts rose from 0.70 to 0.86. So sorry about that mix up. I don't know why I forgot to include those on the slides, but just to clarify, BERT plus emotions accuracy is 0.88 and the F1 is 0.86. So these results indicate a substantial performance gain from including explicit emotion features. The F1 score for the critical depressed class improved by at about 8 percentage points. Error analysis showed that many posts where the baseline, sorry, I lost my place. So an error analysis showed that many posts where the baseline BERT model failed to contain strong emotion words like sad or worthless, that they were more directly captured by emotion features. However, in contrast, the augmented model was better at finding such posts correctly, the BERT plus emotions model. I also evaluated the model's output distributions. The RC curve for the BERT plus emotion model was steeper, yielding an area under the curve, AUC of around 0.92 versus 0.84 for the BERT baseline. This reflects better discrimination between classes. Overall, my simulated experiments demonstrate that combining contextual embeddings with effective cues can significantly enhance depression detection from text. So sorry about the mix-up again, but to summarize, this shows that emotional cues such as words indicating sadness, hopeless, or anger are valuable signals that complement contextual understanding. So of course, there's limitations. Using subreddit labels is an imperfect proxy since not every r/depressant post reflects clinical depression and not every r/teenager post is essentially accurate or has a mentally well teenager serving as a control. My dataset size of 5,000 posts is modest compared to large-scale studies, and my analysis only used text. In real life, teens also share memes, images, or videos, which could also provide additional signals that can't be detected by my processing model. Finally, since the data only came from Reddit, the model's generalizability to other platforms is uncertain. Despite these limitations, the findings have important implications. Automatic early detection systems could help flag at-risk teens earlier than traditional screening, enabling faster human follow-up or interventions such as connecting users with mental health resources. Given the serious consequences of missed or late diagnosis, this kind of system has a real potential. But ethical safeguards are critical, especially when so ethical safeguards are critical in any research, but I feel like especially concerning mental health, as any monitoring must respect privacy, ensure consent, and carefully manage false positives in order to avoid harm. You don't want to accidentally diagnose a teen with, or anybody in fact, with the wrong mental health disorder, or even a mental health disorder if you don't even have one. This can change your lives drastically. Like false positives are very, very risky in this case. Studies have demonstrated that an AI-powered model can detect mental health crises ahead of clinical recognition. In their multilingual, multi-platform study, the AI flagged crises around 7.2 days before human experts were with around an 89% accuracy. So this suggests that a similar system on forums like Reddit could alert moderators or mental health professionals earlier than traditional screenings and potentially help save many teens' lives. In practical terms, if a model flags a user's post as high risk, the platform could automatically offer resources like a the crisis helpline contacts, or nudge the user towards support rather than waiting for the person to seek help on their own, which they might not even know how to get. Early AI detection could thus meaningfully shorten the time to intervention, potentially and hopefully improving outcomes for at-risk individuals before it gets too dangerous. So in conclusion, my study shows that adding emotion features to a BERT-based NLP model significantly improves the detection of depression-related social media posts. Looking forward, larger and more diverse data sets could make my results more robust and multimodal analysis could capture richer signals. Furthermore, explainable AI could help build trust by showing why posts are flagged. Ultimately, combining AI with public health would help support earlier detection and better prevention of adolescent depression. Thank you so much. Again, I'm really sorry about that mix up on my results slide, but I hope you all understood and enjoyed my presentation. Once again, I would like to thank my mentor, Dr. Seda Whitby, for helping me so much throughout this process. I never knew how to write a research paper before this, and this entire experience with the Talaria institution as well, it really just opened my eyes to the research project process and made me appreciate the field I'm going into, AI, even more. It kind of opened up my eyes to the reality of it and showed me what the real world experience kind of really is. So thank you again.